I love San Diego State and I love my hometown. Lori and I, we still live there. And to see what San Diego State has become and the way that they have inspired so many people and the dedication and the determination, what makes fans committed to a team? And I've been part of some of the greatest teams ever. And that doesn't even count UCLA or Helix High School. No, that doesn't even count Helix High School or my elementary school. It does count UCLA. But what makes the fans so committed and so loyal and so proud is the way we play and the way that we're able to live their lives that are challenging, but where the challenges are met with commitment, with belief in the leadership, the commitment to developing your own foundation, to jumping in and immersing yourself in the culture and understand that the team always wins. Nobody ever makes it to the top alone. And to see Viejas Arena, the home arena for the San Diego State Aztecs, that used to be the football field at San Diego State, Aztec Bowl, Don Coryell, and Haven Moses and Brian Sipe and all the legendary teams from the 60s. Our high school team would go over there with the entire Grossmont League and play a fantastic Friday night where there was 8 teams in our league, and there would be each team would play one quarter. So there'd be four little games of one quarter each between all the teams, and all the bands were there. And then they built this fabulous basketball facility, which is also a spectacular concert venue. And to see how the school has just grown up, they've got the light railed underground train subway system that drops you off right in the middle of campus, all the new buildings there. It's one of the most applied to universities in the entire country. And everybody wants to go there. And now the basketball team is just spectacular and fantastic. And the business community has rallied behind in the changing world of college athletics with NIL and all the different opportunities and aspects that brings, and the support of all the philanthropists in building the building, supporting the basketball team and the football team, the new Snapdragon Stadium. Man, the dream is alive. Here we go, Aztecs. And so we're watching these games, right? And San Diego State, I mean, they've got a tough route, to get to the championship here. They had to beat Charleston and Furman the first couple rounds, not too much, but then it was Alabama and Creighton. And Lori and I, we're watching these games, man. We are on the edge of our seat. We're cheering and yelling. Will somebody please make a shot? Will somebody please get a rebound? Guard somebody, come on. And then they win, and we're screaming, Aztecs win, Aztecs win. And my first call is to Steve Fisher to say, not only congratulations, but to thank him.
And a good, happy Tuesday, Monday, whatever. It's our Monday, but it's Tuesday. It's a Jerry Reynolds Tuesday here in the King's Court. He'll be joining us at 2:30 today. Looking forward to that. You got some extended audio at the beginning of the show today from Bill Walton. We knew him as Big Willie style at San Diego State. His son, Chris Walton, was there when I was there. By no means was I great friends with Bill Walton. I wouldn't even call us friends, but I had the pleasure of being around him for 3 years. And you want to talk about passion. You want to talk about lust for life. That was Bill. I mean, Bill's long-winded. Bill, you could ask him. I said this on the podcast today, but you could ask him a question about shooting a free throw. And somehow you're hearing a story about him and his brother, how Bill's the only one to have won an NBA championship and have a brother that played in the Super Bowl. And the reason I played that audio is I've told you a lot about San Diego State basketball. And it being a family, it didn't matter what you were to the team. If you were part of that program, you were part of the family there, and you still are. And it's taken a long time to build. I mean, when I was there, and I never played in a game, I never had the honor of doing that, but it didn't matter. I was part of the program. I had some great experiences, but the program was being built. And when Bill would come to the games, there was not really that many people there compared to now. The program was not as good. In fact, one of SDSU's biggest games that they got during that building time, which would have been my freshman year, was against Arizona when Luke Walton was head coach for your Sacramento Kings, was past head coach. We will get to the head coaching situation in a little bit, but the building was not that full. We may be halfway, but Arizona rolls into San Diego, number one team in the nation. I believe Bill was calling the game on ESPN, getting to see his sons play against each other. And you knew it could be a turning point for SDSU, getting a little bit of national run, getting a little bit of spotlight, because when they hired Steve Fisher, it was basically, hey, here is this beautiful campus, right? Here is oceanfront property. Build your dream house, build your dream program. And that's what Fish and Dutch got to do. But I said on the podcast earlier, there was a lot of other people that had their fingerprints all over that program, whether it was some of the guys from the Fab Five that would always come around if they were in LA or near the area or in the off season, because Fish coached them at Michigan. Whether it's Bill Frieder, Bill Walton, a lot of influential people, and taking a step back, looking at those experiences, and hearing of Bill's passing yesterday, I didn't think about basketball at all. I just thought about Bill. He did so much for the community in San Diego. And here's the thing. When I went to SDSU, I was jaded. I mean, I was really jaded. We were coming off of the playoffs where the Kings were bounced out, Game 7 by the Lakers. How many of you could not stand Bill Walton? Raise your hand. That was me. I could not stand Bill. I thought he was biased. I thought he was a homer. If I could have turned off the TV or turned off the volume, I would have, but I wanted to hear the background at Arco. And luckily we were able to be at some of those games. But anyways, so I get to SDSU and I go through the walk-on process, and as I'm getting to know everybody, I'm in Chris's ear, right? Because Chris was an upperclassman at that time. That's just one of his sons. He's killing it in the real estate game now. But we called him Tuffy because he was a fake tough guy. He wanted to be tough, but he was just a little fluffy Tuffy. Anyways, Chris, I'm sorry if that gets back to you. I didn't say that. There's a guy in the chat. His name's Corn Dog. He's the one that told me to say that. Anyways, by the way, we have footage, or at least I guess there were photographers this weekend at Corn Dog's game. Did you hear about that? Corn Dog had a company game, and we do have some stills from the game. So I can't wait to get an update from him, because I don't have the box score for it. I'm sure somebody does. So we're going to have to break that down. But anyways, I'm like, Tuffy, dude, what's the deal with your dad? Why does he hate the Kings, man? And he's like, I don't know. You ask him. I'm like, I'm not going to ask your dad why he hates the Kings. And so anyways, it started off. That was the icebreaker. And Bill loved the Kings. One of the things that Bill said, and he knew a lot of basketball. He didn't know the level of basketball that Sacramento was playing in 2002 because he didn't watch a ton of Sacramento Kings basketball. And as for Bill and broadcasting, is he like one of the first players to really cross over? I think he is. To being a successful broadcaster. I know Tom Snapper Jones. There's many that we can talk about. Hubie Brown, coach, still doing it. Hubie is amazing. But that first conversation with Bill, I'll never forget it, man. That guy loved the Kings, and so I think many Kings fans didn't realize, or they're like, "Why is Bill here doing games once in a while with Grant and Jerry? What's the fit like there? What's the deal?" Bill really wanted to be around this Kings team. He did. He saw something in it, and back in those days too, he was so impressed with what the Kings were able to do as a small market. But anyways, the passing of Bill Walton, heavy on my heart, just because I got a firsthand seat to see how much he meant to the San Diego community and how much San Diego meant to him. We went to so many park openings that he was involved in. We went to so many community clinics, basketball tournaments, things like that. And it's like he was related to everyone in San Diego. So it's with a heavy heart that we remember Bill Walton, but with a lot of memories. I challenged everybody. I did. And I can't wait to talk to Grant later today, by the way. 5:00, Grant's going to have an open forum show. 8:00, we're going to do some post-game. We're going to do a post-game scrum. So I'm sure we'll talk some Bill Walton there, and we'll talk some with Jerry Reynolds here in a little bit. But go watch a Bill Walton video online. Go watch a Bill Walton video. I challenge you to, and try not to smile. It's almost impossible. His passion comes through, whether it's quirkiness. That was him, man. He was all in on stuff. So Bill, my man, rest easy. It was fun getting to be around you, and it was fun, being friends with Chris and everybody. Bill, to your other sons, Adam, Nate, the ones that a lot of not people talk about because of Chris and Luke, and his beautiful wife, Lori. You want to talk about opposites attracting. They were so cool together. So I just wanted to share some quick memories of Bill to kick the show off. How the heck is everybody doing today? Hope you are well. How was your weekend? We have got a ton, and I mean a ton of basketball to talk about. Raise your hand if you saw the Dallas Mavericks doing what they're doing right now. It's unreal. I can't believe that I'm saying Dallas is the best team in the playoffs right now. If I had to pick, and I keep moving around based off of injuries and attrition has been so important to these playoffs. Hallie goes down in the East and Boston gets a sweep there. Think about that series, though, really quick. Check this out. Like, if Boston loses that game 1 to Indiana, look at the other games. Indiana played them tough with or without Hallie. So credit to them, but they are out. They are ahead of schedule. They are very much ahead of schedule. But Boston, excuse me, not Boston. I'm not impressed with Boston still. I'm just not. Yeah, they've got the experience. They can hit clutch shots, but it's everything getting to clutch time that's really hard to watch with Boston. But Dallas handling the Timberwolves, that has been something that has definitely caught me off guard. There is a chemistry brewing in Dallas. The Kyrie and Luka experiment has officially worked. Those two could not be more in sync. They could not be more together than they possibly are. And you see it across the board with what that Mavericks team's doing. In fact, I've got to think the Mavericks right now are the favorites to win the championship. We'll see. Let's get to the comments. C-Dog, what's up, my man? It is King's Court time. Indeed, I missed everybody. Long weekend. What's up, BJ? Adam, our WWE correspondent. Adam, what did you think about the pay-per-view this weekend, buddy? I think AEW's pay-per-view blew him out of the water. BJ hopping back in. I love that everybody knows everybody in this community we're building. What the? You know what? Gosh darn it! That's my little man leaving books out here on the King's Court. What are we doing? Yes, Riley. Indeed, lost a legend in basketball and just a great person altogether. BJ C Dog correcting. What's up, BJ? Look at you guys all doing your comments. Dennis, what's up, man? Rip Bill, indeed. Man, hard one. He went through that battle quietly, and you know, uh, you can say this about Bill. He lived his life the way he wanted to live his life. So, yo, where's our boy Corn Dog? Good question, Adam. I do have some, like I said, I got some footage of Corn Dog from the game. Yes, Bill did love the Kings run. Many did not realize that, Adam. Yeah, I told you, man. And he does. He grows on you. He does that odd couple of pairing of him and Dave Pash. That was some good TV on ESPN. Now, Dave Pash, you could tell at times he seemed to be getting legitimately frustrated, but that's part of working with Bill. Corndog taking the core workers to the cross. Well done. Well done. I love that. The Crossco instead of Costco. It's amazing what consistent team defense brings every night. Yeah, dude, what about the Mavericks playing defense? Look at the points for Minnesota in this series. 105, 108, or excuse me, Minnesota 105, Minnesota 108, and then you've got Minnesota 107. Not even into the 110s. So pretty damn cool. Number two teams have number two teams have ever swept in the conference finals in the same season. You're pulling deep there, C Dog. I like it, man. I like it indeed. Let's see. T-Wolves are done. Did you guys see the Anthony Edwards dunk? How about that, man? But yeah, I don't think they extend the series tonight. I think Dallas ends it. Dallas has had a little bit of a killer instinct. They did that with the Clippers. And they're not afraid of a big moment now. The question becomes, though, can Luka stay healthy? We have not seen really a series go by where a team has not had a guy fall, an important guy. Luka at this point is being held together by duct tape, but it is working. So I think they close it out tonight. We already got to that one. We got to that one. Dallas is nice to watch. Well, see, do you remember a few weeks ago I said anybody or anyone but Dallas when they moved on against OKC? And do you remember how I'm like, this ain't sitting well, or this will not sit well with ownership? And then we get the reports that have come out. Now, I want to talk about the Mike Brown coaching situation once we get through these comments, because it's a weird spot to be in. You should have seen the storm brewing in Dallas. Say, oh, really? Dude, the storms have been nuts all over the country as of late. Yo, Dennis, what's up? Steely Beats, what's happening? Thanks for checking in. Happy to have you here on the King's Court Tuesday with Jerry Reynolds. The PLE wasn't great. Yes, I am happy Liv got the championship. Yeah, I didn't even watch the Cody match either. T-Wolves seem to be acting way too confident. They haven't won a game, and no team has ever come back from 3-0 down. You know what, C-Dog? I respect that. I actually respect that swagger by the T-Wolves. That's kind of that swagger that you have to have in the playoffs. Every game's a new game. In the NBA season, there's a reason you don't play teams 3 times in a row. We've started doing the 2 times in a row. But, hey, Adam, what's the deal with Dallas right now? Because you guys got a hockey team that's also in the conference finals. I'd love to get the temperature of what that city feels like. I know you're in Texas. Yeah, that's scary. And storm chasers, why? I don't get storm chasing. Do you? I mean, look, you want to see a tornado? Go on YouTube. You want to see a tornado in person? I'm going to call you crazy. Stay the hell away from them. And yeah, I echo those sentiments. Go Mavs, keep it in the West. But Okay, your Kings were ahead of the Mavericks in the standings. And what did the Mavericks do? They made a couple moves. I've talked about this at the trade deadline. And just that little of a tweak can put you over the top. Mason hopping in. Your dad's a pilot. Interesting. So is mine. He says mid-country thunderstorms are usually up to 35,000 feet, but lately they're up to 70K. Right. So, Mason, airline pilot or private pilot? Just curious. Asking for a friend. And a World Series champ. That's right. You know what? Cat's just doing his thing. That's what Cat does. Sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. Almost always he's running with two left feet. He's a great player, but he's an awkward player. You just don't know what to do with him. I mean, you can't really respect him as a threat to drive the ball because of the athleticism. He can shoot the three ball really well, but he's got to be set. He is not a great shooter unless those feet are set. So it's hard getting him those looks. Stars are the real darlings. There you go. Fair enough. Yes, I know, Condog. I've been kind of watching it. It's been tough. You guys have been right there too. Dallas got that goal in the third period. Riley chiming in. Couldn't be a storm chaser. Driving 90 miles an hour in the opposite directions just wouldn't work, right? So one of my buddies, he's like, yeah, I did my final paper in college on storm chasing. And so I had to press him a little bit on that. I'm like, well, what exactly would you be doing a research paper on about storm chasing? Is it how they collect their data? Like, dial me in. And he couldn't, but he still loves the storm chasing game and talks about doing it. I sent him a video of this YouTuber. I guess he's a guy that did it for a living. I sent the YouTube page to him. His name used to be like High Risk something, and he got too close to a tornado. And what he didn't think about was all the other storm chasers that might be chasing the tornado on the same road that he planned to be his exit route. So when the tornado got too close and he was going to bail, he couldn't turn off of the road because all the storm chasers were going the other way. And guess what? Dude got ate by the tornado. Thank goodness he made it alive, or made it out alive. Let's see. Nice. Collins, big extension for, or Nico Collins. Yes, indeed. It's that time of year. Mason, Alaskan. All right. All right. Interesting. Very good. All right. Really quick, before we get Jerry Reynolds up here, we got 7 minutes. He'll be here about 2:30. I want to talk about Coach Brown and the contract situation. You know what? I love this picture of Coach Brown. I think it's a great picture. Look at how happy he is. I'd be happy too if I'm the Kings head coach. So some new reports come out from Mark Spears, nothing that we didn't already know about the contract negotiations. Now, ownership not happy about the Kings' failures the last two off seasons. Well, one off season and then missing the off season. Okay. I mean, sure. How high do you have the bar though? It's a natural progression. How about we look at the fact that this guy had 2 winning seasons in Sacramento when before him there was 16 seasons without the playoffs. He set a culture. He has turned around this team. He really has. You can't say it any way, other way. And technically his boss, Monty McNair, did not make a lot of moves. So who's usually the fall guy? It's the coach, right? And here's the thing about the Kings. I know Vivek, and the problem with the optics of this, and you could almost, I would almost bet these reports were leaked from Mike Brown's camp as a tactic for negotiations, because that's what this is, ongoing negotiations. But here's the thing. The Kings have a history of blowing through coaches, of making irresponsible decisions that come from the top, come from ownership. Now, the majority of those were not under Vivek. Those were under the previous owners. Now, let's get to the Vivek era. There was a lot of meddling at the beginning. Him, maybe putting his hands in the pot where he shouldn't, right? Well, Monty McNair is the guy that hires Mike Brown. Those two are tied together. And Monty McNair's not making a ton of moves yet. Mike Brown, in some ways, you can make the argument he's made chicken salad out of chicken shit when it comes to in-season trades, trade deadlines, etc. You are a team that is up and coming and on the rise and trying to retain Malik Monk. The one thing that I am looking at, the one thing I am looking at as a free agent or somebody that wants to come to Sacramento is I am looking for stability. I don't want to go through what previous Kings have gone through. Rudy Gay laid it out perfectly, right? Well, guess what? You have that right now in Mike Brown. Stability. Okay? And Vivek, and think about the money the Kings have made the last 2 seasons versus the previous seasons. The Kings were having trouble with season tickets. Now there's a waiting list for season tickets. So you have a coach that really what's happened is the Budenholzer contract. Take away the Monty Williams contract. The Monty Williams contract is an outlier. Okay? You don't pay attention to it. Much like the Rudy Gobert trade where they got like 5 first-round picks for him. Outlier. That was just a bad deal. Okay? But then you have Budenholzer get his deal. I believe it's 5 years, right around $50 million. That's about $10 million a year. I'm not saying you need to pay Mike Brown exactly what Mike Budenholzer is being paid because Mike Budenholzer's won a championship. But what I am saying is Mike Brown certainly deserves market value, and I do think it's right around that $10 million number. And here's the problem. If you play this game of chicken, you are really, really running the risk of turning this fan base in Sacramento off. Because for the first time, all of you feel like, all right, we're on the right track. And now there's a fork in the road. And it's like, wait, are we going to go back to old ways? Or are we going to keep trudging down the trail that might have some peaks, might have some valleys, but we know eventually the destination is where we're supposed to be. And that's the Mike Brown trail, okay? So let's say you play this game of chicken and you go into the next year where it's a joint, basically it's a joint option. Mike Brown could say, I want to come back, but the Kings could say, no, I don't, we don't want to have you back. It's complicated, okay? You don't usually see lame duck head coaches in the NBA, and there's a reason for that. It can shift the locker room when players think that, hey, I'm going to be here longer than this coach is going to be here, so why am I going to listen to him? But here's the other thing. Sacramento is not that desirable of a job, even now, and it's because of the history of ownership just overstepping and not having patience, making bad decisions, instability. And again, this is not all on Vivek. I want to be very clear about that. But you are going to have to pay a coach probably right around that number that's going to you're going to have to overpay. Like Detroit overpaid to get a great coach, to get them to come to a city that's not as desirable as some of the other NBA franchises. You're going to have to overpay for somebody that's not probably nearly as qualified as Coach Brown is. And you have a sample of Coach Brown's work. If you were to do a progress report on the Sacramento Kings and Coach Brown, he would be passing both progress reports with flying colors. Guess what? Injuries out of Coach Brown's control. Moves out of Coach Brown's control. What can Coach Brown control? He can control the product on the court. That is his job, to manage the personalities, okay? And no locker room is going to be perfect. Name me the last NBA team that you can remember that never had an off-court issue, that never had an underlying tension over something. It doesn't happen. It doesn't. So Mike Brown has passed both ways. I know, again, it is a negotiation tactic, in my opinion, and it is likely coming from Mike Brown's camp because there is no benefit of this report coming from the Kings. Why would the Kings want to piss off the fan base and worry the fan base? That's the last thing they want to do. Yet it makes all the sense in the world for Mike Brown's camp to say, look, They don't want to pay me fair market value, or at least what I perceive my fair market value to be. If you want to take the Denver blueprint on how to grow a small market team and how to get them to prominence and how to get them to a championship, it is not screwing around with the coach. It's locking the coach in, because it's not just locking the coach in. When you do that, that sends a message to everybody in the organization and the players that we believe in this guy. And this guy's here to stay. You need to listen to what he's saying, because it has worked the last couple of years. I asked Grant and Jerry after the season if they thought this would be a distraction. Both of them said they did not think it would be. Now I do think that it will start to be a distraction because of Malik Monk. Would you want to come to Sacramento? Would you want to commit if you don't know what's going on? I mean, is Malik Monk not kind of in that Rudy Gay situation that Rudy Gay talked about on his podcast? So I just find the timing of this very ironic. I just don't like the path that it takes Sacramento Kings fan down. And I think ultimately the Kings have no choice, zero choice, but to re-sign Mike Brown and extend him. But we'll see how long they go, how much chicken they want to play, because Mike Brown has clearly let them know, I want to be in Sacramento. I am all in on this team. By the way, that would be a terrible idea, Dennis. Awful. No, not even a chance. Doug is just now, he's the front runner to be coaching the summer league team this year. So, yeah, you do not want that. Jerry Reynolds says he has no link. I'm going to be talking here for a second while I get that resent to Mr. Reynolds. Give me just 1 second here. Let's forward that to, I can't say his email address online. That would not be good. There we go. All right. Let's see if he got it now. This is live TV, y'all. I apologize. And yes, we do have some rye doughs later today, and that includes cell phone stores. Man, what's worse, going to the cell phone store or going to the car dealership? That's a tough one for me, because inevitably something always goes wrong with the cell phone. Like the setup, there's a problem. You got to do a hard reset, but then you've got the car dealerships, and no offense to anybody that is a car salesman. I respect the fact that you're working, you're hustling, but they tried to gouge my wife for like $1,000 on the color white on her car. I'm like, when did white become a premium color on vehicles? Very, very odd. So we will see if Jerry pops up here in a second. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to do this. I am just going to resend that right now. Let's see if we can get that out to Jerry. Hope everybody's weekend was great. This is Ryan in Sacktown. You are here on the King's Court. We are awaiting the arrival of one Jerry Reynolds for Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. Can't wait for that. We've got that link resent to Jerry. And there we go. We are good to go. Hopefully Jerry will be showing up soon. Let's get Mike Brown off of there. And we are still waiting on Condog. By the way, we have video, or not video. We have a picture from Corn Dog's game this weekend. I heard he balled out. So I'm not going to ask Jerry to break that one down, but it will be interesting once we get to that. Speaking of Jerry, let's bring him in. Happy Tuesday, Jerry Reynolds.
Well, it is a nice Tuesday. It's very nice Tuesday. And, getting this NBA stuff heading toward the finish. Been some good games. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas can close them out tonight. But at any rate, we're going to have some good teams in the finals.
Yeah, I'm just going to start there. What's been your opinion? What stuck out to you from both conference finals? Obviously, Boston moves on. Dallas looks to close out tonight. What are the big things you're seeing?
Well, I'm a little surprised, that really Indiana played the Celtics. I know they got swept 4-0, but they had a chance to win certainly three of the four, and
Right.
probably should have. But I think their inexperience, certainly with Boston, able to turn the defense up a notch and make force turnovers and all that. So they're the better team, but I really did think Indiana played them well, and obviously losing Tyrese hurt them. Uh, Although played Nemhard and McConnell.
McConnell.
I mean, those guys. I mean, they really brought it. I think Indiana's got a lot more depth than I think they even knew they had. So I think that's good. And then of course Minnesota Dallas. It's same thing. It's been close games, and really just Luka and Kyrie are better down the stretch than the T Wolves. That's really been the difference. Just making big plays, big shots. So it's good basketball. I mean, the old saying, you might as well just wait till the last 6 minutes of the NBA game. I hate to admit it, but there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is true, because even if you see a team go up 10-15, Jerry, these days, inevitably it feels like it's going to come back.
Yeah, it doesn't mean much of anything. I always said, I mean, a 10-point lead, back when I first came in the league meant more than a 20-point lead does now. I mean, it's just, a few missed shots and a couple of turnovers, and the other team's in the open court and they make some threes, and all of a sudden, game's different. And and we've seen that, when I think basically you're a Celtic team that really depends on a lot of threes, as does, the Mavericks, and of course Indiana did. I mean, so when you're making your threes, you look awful good. And when you're missing them, you can get beat by anybody, and that's kind of what we've learned, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Jerry, I want to ask you about this. We're seeing guards really rebounding the ball well in the playoffs. Josh Hart's a great rebounder, but Drew Holiday gets a huge rebound to basically seal that game, offensive rebound. Is that something that you think the Kings could be doing with their guards, or is there a reason the guards aren't crashing with the Kings?
Well, I think actually, De'Aaron rebounded pretty well. I mean, I think that they could do better. I think one of the reasons is the guards don't get too many is because Sabonis gets them all.
Yeah, he eats them up.
But I mean, it is a case where the rebounding is a little more difficult. You really got to react. I mean, when you take long threes, the ball's going to come out different. People always talk about blocking out. Well, blocking out has very little to do with it when you get those long rebounds. It's a reaction. Who can get to them? And that's what that's another part of the game that's different. That's why you have so many offensive rebounds at times.
Right.
Long rebounds turn into you get the ball back, you get another long shot, it comes off funny, you get the ball back. And
Yep.
So that's all part of the new age basketball. But I always say, people talk about, block out. Well, you can't really block out somebody on the wing, because time you found them, they'd be already to the basket.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah.
And teams have been doubling so much, or I've seen a lot in the playoffs where teams are trailing their guards a lot with the ball handler as opposed to dropping back with the roller, which has thrown things off tremendously when it comes to the rebounding. That's what happened on that Drew Holiday play.
Yeah. We're, of course, I think teams trying everything, where they want to double, on-screen roll situations, or they want to trail. Do you want to just show out and drop back? And that's what you got to do. Just throw them off their timing any way you can. These guys are too good if you just show them the same look all the time. And it's like with certainly with Tatum or Brown. You just can't play those guys head up. You're going to have to give help on them. Same way with Irving and Doncic. Now, whether you want to get the ball out of their hands, but the problem is when you've got two killers like Doncic and Irving, you can't, if you double both of them, that only leaves one guy for the rest.
Right.
You've got to be pretty selective. And Brown and Tatum, same thing. So you've got to really more than double, kind of show a double, but just send a guy at him and then have him have him rotate, or his original defender rotate, because that's a real problem. I mean, that's all I know is I don't know that you can stop those guys or defend those guys. You hope you can make them take some tough shots or make a mistake.
It's a great point. Jerry Reynolds joining us here on the King's Court. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the great Bill Walton. I opened the show with some audio of him talking about San Diego State. And when I was at SDSU, his son, Chris Walton, was on the team. So I was lucky enough to be around Chris and by default be around Bill for a while. You worked with Bill. Talk about Bill as one, what he meant to basketball, but two, working with him, broadcasting, the person he was.
Yeah, it was really a real treat. Of course, I remember Bill's one of the greatest college players of all time. I think he and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar probably make the case they're the two greatest college players of all time. And then, really got to know him a little bit through playing in the league when he was a player. And then, as a broadcaster, he was brought on to work for the Kings, part-time one year. And I kind of knew what it was, was that was the year leading up to when the Maloofs wanted to go to Anaheim. And really, Bill and Jim Gray were hired basically so if the team went to Anaheim, they would basically
transition in.
They would be the TV guys there, which didn't bother me because I wasn't going to Anaheim anyway. I mean, I didn't want to. So it was very comfortable. But now, having said that, they originally wanted us to have a 3-man booth, me and Bill. And we did that one game. And you can't do it because, I mean, Grant would ask a question and he might go on for the quarter,
Oh, yeah.
So I told Craig Amsey, I said, well, it'd be better for Bill and the broadcast if I just went over and worked with Gary Gerald on radio. And I said, those 10 or so games. And I didn't mind that at all. Of course, Gary's great to work with.
Sure.
All that. But I thought, if the Maloofs, they want to see how Bill would fit in, well, then let him be the guy. And that was great. But he was so easy to deal with. I really liked him. I mean, he's one of those guys as a broadcaster, I can honestly say, in my opinion, with Bill was if you really cared about who was going to win the game or that game, he might not be the broadcaster for you.
Sure.
If you really didn't care who wins or loses, he's the best because he's the best entertainment. He made the game so much fun. But I would say kind of like if you really had a vested interest in the home team or a particular game, you'd probably get a little upset at times, bless his heart, because he'd just go on and on, I mean, he was Mr. Hyperbole. There's no doubt about that. The first time I ever heard him on TV, he was doing a Clipper game. And he was talking about there was a fast break, a 3-on-2 fast break. Nothing particularly outstanding. The greatest fast break I've ever seen by any team in the history of the game.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I just about dropped out. I mean, no, he was one of a kind. Obviously well loved, easy to like, humble man. Really sad to see him go through so much pain in his life.
Yeah.
Various injuries, but I know he's a very, just the best, and too short, but nothing but good things in my mind except for Bill Walton. He's just one of the best.
He would always remind us because he did a ton for San Diego. That was his hometown. He would always say he looks high school before UCLA, but we would go to different events and he was just so involved. And I challenged everybody watching. I'm like, go watch a clip of Bill doing something and try not to smile, because even when the camera was off, I mean, the passion just bled through with him.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I mean, he really did. I mean, try to approach it. I mean, and he said that every minute, every day was the greatest thing ever. Yep. Enjoy it. And I think a lot of it had to do with some of the really a lot of the injuries. I mean, his start of his pro career wasn't particularly good. I think he had some issues. Kind of went into the hippie phase, a few
Yes.
things, but then all of his foot injuries, things that really hurt his career so much because he didn't have anywhere near the kind of career he should have had, and certainly, but he still proved to be, great. But yeah, I think that was all part of it. Once the back problem started, he was able to get control of that. He just he was like, oh, every day's the greatest day ever, and he was just happy all the time. I mean, amazing. I mean,
Always.
I always say, his approach, if we all could take that, be a little more positive about
Yeah.
things and enthusiastic, we'd all be better for it. Sometimes we spend too much time feeling sorry for ourselves about this or that.
Yep, that's a great point, Jerry. Yeah, the bike. He had this massive bike that he said was doing wonders for his back and his pain. And like for anybody our size, the seat was like at my head. It was hilarious, but he loved being on that thing. But we got a question here for you. Is Luca now the face of the league until Wemby develops a little further?
Well, I think you make the great case for that. I really, he is just an elite player. He's been that way for a while. I think people forget that I think his second year in the league, he took Dallas to the Western Finals when they beat the team with the best record, Phoenix. But yeah, I would say so. I mean, he's potentially an all-time great. I mean, he and Jokic probably would be if you. I mean, it's certainly in the category, and yeah, he's. And I'm not sure about Wemby. I think there's a lot of. I mean, will Wemby be the face of the league? He could be, but he's got a lot more to prove before he passes guys like Jokic and Luka and guy and Dedecumpo. I mean, and there's some guys there that have done a whole lot. He's got to do more and get stats on a 22-win team.
Amen. It's a good point. And he doesn't, you always talk about LeBron's first game and what you told to Grant, or what you said to Grant when you saw him for the first time, that he was going to be an all-time great. And you knew that it was going to be the face of the league on the court and off the court. I don't get that same feeling from Wemby that you're explaining.
No, I don't either. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think it will be more of a process if he's going to get there, and certainly he can. But LeBron was there already. I saw him in some McDonald's high school stuff and practices. I saw him in college, and I just knew, I'd never seen nothing like it. I mean, it was just no 18, Kobe or Durant or Garnett, those kind of guys. Tracy McGrady in high school were terrific, but they weren't near as good as he was.
No,
he was the best player in the nation in high school as a sophomore.
It's a great point.
Next time you see that, it will be never. And so, yeah, he did pretty much, what we all thought. I mean, he was certainly a franchise changer and one of, if not the greatest player ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And where do you? No problem. You know what? That was LeBron. He knew you were talking about him.
Yeah, I think might have been.
Where do you stand on the rule about one and dones versus allowing players to go straight to the NBA from high school now? Do you think that's something that needs to change again?
Well, it is one of those things that everybody be better off if they spent more time preparing to be professional basketball players. Now with the college thing, with the NIL money and the transfers, I mean, they can certainly stay longer. I mean, financially, they can stay longer. So maybe that will work, but it hasn't benefited the NBA per se, because most of the guys, even the ones that become really good later, it takes them 2 or 3 years for the most part. And as opposed to back when you got guys had to go at least 3 years to college, you pretty much, when you drafted a guy, you got a real good player that day. The Magics and the Birds and the Jordans, the Tim Duncans, they came into the league ready to be productive players, and were a lot of 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds like Kobe. I mean, it was in his third year before he really was able to help Kevin Garnett the same way. Now, had they went to college a few more years, they'd have walked right into the league and had an immediate impact. And that's what we've lost, as well as you don't really get to know players. It's like when when I first
Exactly.
came in the league, or even before, you had the Pete Maraviches playing 4 years of college, and Bill Bradley's and Walt Frazier's and all the greats, uh, Bill Russell's, Will Chamberlain. I mean, so you saw those guys, and we're aware of their greatness before you got to see them in the pros, and I think that has been lost, and that's why I think there's a lot of loss of interest in the men's college game. I mean, you see it in their ratings, and
Yeah.
until you see the Final Four, and maybe a few players. The average fan may not know any players, but just a few, like on the Connecticut or the top teams.
Right. No, exactly right. And that's one of the big things. I think it hurts college. You laid it out perfectly because it you had storylines sometimes that would carry into the NBA, like Magic and Larry Bird, right? They were kind of tied together, or at least they make you want to seem that way. But you knew the players in the draft, and I think it hurts the entire draft process. I mean, somebody like me that follows basketball, I have to do heavy homework on some of these guys because there's so little tape on them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't study it like I used to, but it is one of those things where you certainly for the 13th pick, you're starting to hear of names. Well, unless you really research it, you don't know who they are. You didn't see them.
Right.
I mean, or they, it's one of those things to where they were good as freshmen. They averaged 14 points a game, and it's like, boy, that'd be a great pick at 7 or 8. It's like, yeah, they might be. But
Yeah.
but there's no guarantee they get better, and that's always been the thing. It's like, well, look how good he is at 18 years old. Look how good he'll be at 25. Doesn't always work that way. And
Sure.
and as we know, there's so many players that are late developers that weren't heavily recruited in high school or even come into the NBA and become great over a period of years. I always use Steve Nash and Steph Curry as great examples of that. They were good, but then over a period of time they became great.
Yeah.
and that's credit to them. Where other guys were supposed to be great, and within 3 or 4 years, it's like, yeah, they're okay.
Yeah, didn't quite pan out. Luckily, they're on a rookie deal and not a second contract. So let's transition a little bit to the Kings. We talked at the end of the season about Mike Brown and the situation with his contract, the weird option where the team could pick it up and he could deny, vice versa. Now there's a report from Mark Spears saying that basically talks have broken down. Mike Brown is not getting what he feels would be fair market value. I don't think there's any threat really of Mike Brown leaving the Kings, and I don't think the Kings want him to leave either. But with the PTSD of this fan base, how long can the Kings let this go down that road with him and his contract?
Yeah, that's a stickler. Honestly, I was a little surprised that Coach Brown, opted out, because he would have had this year and another year, my understanding, and so it does, put the pressure, on him to some degree, and certainly the franchise even more, because I think clearly he's a coach you want to keep. Now, what's the best way of going about it? I certainly would hope they're in talks now to get an extension. Whether probably if I were the ownership, I'd certainly be trying to sign him to an extension. I might not. I might say, well, instead of signing you to a 5-year deal or something, I still might want to, sign you to a 3-year extension. Uh, you know, uh, we would like, before we say, you're our 10-year coach, we'd like to have,
Yeah.
just a little more information. Certainly, the money's the money, and it's going to be a lot of money. But I just think, in fairness to both, it's like, okay, You've been here 2 years, and you'll be 3 under contract. And if we agreed to 3 more right now, that would take you to 6, and we should all be very comfortable with where you are in that time frame. And then before, hopefully before that 6 is up, we'd sign you, decide you're our coach for the next 5 years after that. But
right.
So I mean, I think there's a fair point, and hopefully they can get to it.
Take me inside the dynamic here. I've seen some of the questions in the chat, so I'm going to try to put this all into one. Part of the reports coming out are saying ownership isn't thrilled with the way the last 2 seasons have ended. I understand that the Kings missing the playoffs is a disappointment. I can relate to that, but there's only so many controllables that the coach can control. And ultimately the general manager, in a way, is the coach's boss. So how does that dynamic work if you feel like you're not getting the moves to support the system you're trying to run?
Well, it is a, conundrum, because I think every fan base, every owner, every GM thinks the roster is better than it is. That's by nature.
Yeah.
The coach sees it probably a little different, and sometimes the coach may be a little more negative than he should be. They see the flaws more sometimes than the rest of us, because they're there during practice, during games, and seeing the little things that maybe don't show up to most of us. But I do think, I mean, I don't know who could have done a better job with this team than Mike.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't agree with everything, but that doesn't make me right. I think it's a flawed roster. I mean, I think they've got some terrific players. I think it's a case where, though, they probably need 2 more starting caliber players. The bench was so thin that some of the guys who started probably should be off the bench players. Then you'd have a good bench, and so there's that. And we saw, teams like Dallas, who added people at the break,
exactly,
changed their team. Obviously, Indiana getting Siakam at the break changed their team. They were a good team, but they were a serious contender. Get to the finals. Siakam made them better. There's no doubt. And so, it's a case in my mind is, this is a team that could contend for the playoffs. But if you want to get better, you're going to have to add more talent and more athleticism.
In some ways, this run by Dallas, because of the moves that you said that they made at the trade deadline, arguably the Kings needed to fill some roles in those spots. They didn't jump at those. But in some ways, is what Dallas doing give it a more positive outlook for the Kings, because the margin's just about that much different? Because the Kings were right with Dallas all this season. Or is it more frustrating because you see what they're doing now in the postseason and you don't make the playoffs?
Well, it is a little frustrating. I think, obviously everyone, I think, knew and felt that the Kings needed to make improvements at the midpoint, trade deadline. They weren't able to do that. What we don't know is what was available. Sure. And what was tried. And I think as fans here again, we tend to probably rate our players a little higher than maybe others do. And so the idea you can trade, Herter and Barnes for Jokic is it's nice, but you can't really do that. Or that, and then of course your cap situation. But so then bottom line is, teams like Dallas, they were able to do that. They had the room to do it. They had the assets to do it, and they clearly got a lot better. Because really, I felt the Mavericks weren't as good as the Kings until that happened. I mean, until that change was made, I don't think they were as good as the Kings. And so, just puts a little more pressure on, I think, Monty and his staff, going forward, because you just know, at least in my mind, that if you start the season with the same roster, with the West being the way it is, and some of the teams that were out of it last year, San Antonio, Houston, Memphis, those teams are going to be better.
Yes, considerably
better. And so, it's just going to get tougher and tougher. I think the West is just so tough. So you've got to find a way, obviously, keep Monk and add some talent to your team. And, the draft is obviously one way, but, probably trade and free agency. You got to put it all together this summer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great response. Jerry Reynolds joining us for just a couple more minutes on Jerry Reynolds Tuesday here on the Kings Court. Do you think because of the way the Kings utilized or didn't utilize certain guys this year, Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, he's a little bit of a different story because of the injury. We don't know how he's going to bounce back from that. But do you think their value has changed from last season to this offseason?
Probably a little. Yeah, I would say so. I think, you have a tendency now to say, hey, they're NBA players. And I think probably for the Kings to get better, they probably need to be reserve players.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the bench was thin enough that if you had those guys coming off your bench against other guys, second line guys, I think your team would be better if you could do that. Now, that means you still got to, if you take Harrison out of the starting lineup, obviously Keon Ellis, you can be happy there. But with Harrison, okay, well, you got to get somebody better. And, honestly, I like Trey Lyles, but I don't think he is. So, right off the bat, as I had a kind of a love affair a year or so ago with Naz Reid,
Yes, you did.
And the more I see him, it's like you talk about a perfect fit, that sort of thing. And that's kind of where they have to go. Get that, maybe think out of the box, get that guy that's ready to get better, find him before he really establishes that he's really good.
Bingo.
Because once he does, you're not going to be able to get him.
Bingo. Excellent point. I want to take you, last question. As a coach, because we saw it with Sacramento, Malik Monk, you've said you didn't see a reason why he wouldn't start. What's the chess play or the mindset of a coach playing your 5 best players versus making sure matchups throughout the game are in your favor, where you might hold some guys over that could start and bring them off the bench? How does that work when you're coaching the team?
Well, I do think, there's a lot to be said for having that great guy off the bench that you can go to and he'll make you better. I mean, probably the greatest example, that's Manu Ginobili.
Yes.
Clearly good enough to start. He's a Hall of Fame player, but he came off the bench and he always, just about always made the team better. And he was and he liked that role. Now, I think Monk for the Kings is a lot the same way. He's certainly one of the 3 or 4 best players. He just doesn't start. Now, if in fact you felt like you'd be better with him starting and you could find somebody that could, or a couple of guys that could maybe give the same spark off the bench differently, you might do that. But in general, I believe in starting your best players. But it's also true, like I say, there's several examples of that where you have a great, and I think Indiana, like T.J. McConnell, that guy makes him better every time he steps on the court, and so you need guys like that, and certainly Monk, qualifies in my mind. But it's a little bit of a conundrum, because if the player himself, if Manu Ginobili says, "Hey, Pop, I'm one of your best players, I want to start."
Yeah.
My guess is Popovich would have started him. That's what I think.
I would think so too. I mean, there were times Manu slided into the starting lineup when guys were out, weren't there? I remember.
Yeah. If there's injuries or something. I mean, it wasn't a case. It was never a case of was he good enough. I think it's just a case. You go back early times in the NBA when Kevin McHale was a 6th man, or for a few years. People forget that, or John Havlicek for a few years with those great old Celtic teams, and then of course, and he became their best player later. What I mean? But I mean, and I get the situation for Monk. I mean, it's one of those things. If he really wants to be a starter and it's important to him, that may come up as far as negotiations and things. So I don't know. I hope not, because he clearly even though he doesn't start, he plays starter minutes.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
that's your point. And I mean, that's the only thing I'd say. It's like, hey, you're one of our best players, and you'll play the most minutes. You may not start, but you'll play more minutes than a couple of starters. So
yep. No doubt. It matters who's on the floor at the end of the game, not the beginning of the game.
absolutely.
And Bill Walton, he won 6th Man of the Year in Boston.
Sure did.
Speaking
Had been obviously MVP of the league in the late '70s, and of course he went through a lot of injuries. But it was one of the first things when they got Bill. I know he went around to Robert Parrish and told him, said, "I'm here to help out. I'm here to back up," and it tells you a lot about Bill. That's who he was. Even though he knew he was going to be a Hall of Famer. He was there to help out a great team, and certainly did that, and they may actually be the greatest team ever. I mean, that was
a good team.
That was a whole bunch of Hall of Famers on that one.
Such a fun era of basketball to go back and watch if you have the ability to do it. Hey, since you love Nas Reed, Minnesota, there's some tattoo shops giving Nas Reed tattoos for free now. If you'd like to, Jerry, we could arrange a bus to get you out there or something.
Well, if I knew we could get him, I'd get him on my neck and everywhere else. Whatever.
He'd be such a changer.
Yeah, but Mrs. Reynolds might not go for it. But
yeah. I can
gotta think outside the box sometimes.
No doubt. Jerry, thank you so much for coming on as you always do on Tuesdays. You killed it. Everybody loves when you're here. So thank you so much, buddy.
Well, I enjoyed it. And hey, keep the faith. That's all we can do.
Amen. Keep the faith. All right. That is the one and only Jerry Reynolds. Whew, what a conversation. We covered some ground there, didn't we? Let's get to the comments really quick. Let's see if we're going back to the cars. At least if you're going to the dealership, you get a new rig, which is better than a stupid new phone. Well, Adam, dude, talk to my kid who got his first cell phone. Isn't that a scary thought? My child has a cell phone now. Heavy parental controls. And I can tell you when Jerry's phone went off, I'm like, okay, my phone's going off because we get the notifications if he wants to download something or whatever. But we were at the cell phone shop, and it's just one of those things. Like, they've got the bundles, you end up upgrading. My wife and I weren't planning to do it. But then it's like, okay, well, we can get the watches for this much, and we might as well do it. But then her watch works, my watch doesn't. We have to go back the next day. You get my point, Adam. It's just always something. And then you've really, with the cell phone people and the people that helped us, they did a great job. They're doing their job. They had to do what they needed to do. But like, you've really got to hammer into them about the little details. Like, when they say most or sometimes, it's like, no, I need to know what you mean by that. Like, what does that fee mean? How much is that fee? So you got to be careful and listening for that one. But let's see. Tell us Haunted Horse's email address. Why do you want Haunted Horses? Go to HollywoodRejects.com. HollywoodRejects.com. That is how you can find Haunted Horse. Bane, what's up, my man? Happy to see you. We all love the G-Man. In fact, we are efforting the G-Man. How would you like to have the G-Man here on the King's Court? That would be pretty fun. He came by Grant and I's event when we shaved our heads. Oh my gosh, almost 2 years ago. This fall would be 2 years ago. Yeah, Dave, it's funny. It's funny that you bring that up. It's an inside joke. So here's the inside joke, Dave. Especially when we do the shows that are Jerry, Grant, and I. If two are wearing a hat, the third has to go get a hat. So it's like a majority rules thing. So if it's just two of us and he goes with the hat and I don't, sometimes you'll get that one day where we both get hats, but not usually. Jerry's style is great. I love it. I would be rocking all right. I know I have a number of things from the Kings, but it's so comfortable. That stuff is just awesome. And that's what Jerry rocks all the time. Yeah, like Keegan Murray, he's got to be your Michael Porter Jr. if you're following the blueprint, women's. Yeah, for sure. We talked about that last week, Dog. That's why there's the WNBA that's getting a bump in their ratings right now. There's players that you recognize. There's built-in storylines there. And it's been fun. And even, did you see, Dog, how the WNBA vets, the girls or women already in the league, when Caitlin Clark came in, they were targeting her. They still are. They want a piece of Caitlin Clark. It's great. The competitiveness, and look at the buildings. The buildings are being filled now. So love it. Yeah, Petrie was a great GM. No doubt. You know what? You guys keep saying Zach Edey. So do you want a player? Who's the first player profile you want from the draft? Let me know in the chat. I could probably do Edey first. I just don't know that he's going to come. Kyle, what's up? I don't understand why they don't give him the extension. It would be a huge loss and a step back. You know, they're just, again, it's posturing, it's negotiations. Let's remember that. There's no report that's come out that said the Kings will not extend Mike Brown's contract. The report is, negotiations are tabled right now. I mean, tabled is very ambiguous, right? What does tabled mean? Well, maybe they're tabled until the meeting next week. Are they tabled indefinitely? It's a dance that the two sides do. And again, the Kings have no benefit of leaking that story. That probably came from Mike Brown's camp, if I had to guess. I do not have confirmation on that, so do not take that on the record. I think Royce O'Neal would have really helped us Fitz Brown's scheme. Yeah, he would be a good pick. Jerry getting the love. We put that off. My man Patrick, off the clock. What's up, Patrick? How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here on a Tuesday. Does Monk owe Doncic payback? No. Monk, that he did not get hurt on the fall. It happened on the plant. Do you guys realize that? It was the plant. So when he planted and went up, it was just the icing on the cake that Luka fell on his knee. So I don't think so. It wasn't a dirty play. He wasn't trying to undercut him or anything. I mean, shoot, Luka already has credit card hops. So you're not that far off the ground if you're Luka. He didn't fall from too high of a distance. Clippers did it this season, missed that one. I love Jamal Crawford, by the way. As an analyst, I love his style. Guy knows a ton. On my neck, that's where you would get your Nas Reed tattoo. I actually have a Kings tattoo. Did you guys know that? You didn't know that. I do have a Kings tattoo somewhere on my body. Always a pleasure to hear Jerry's insight. It is. The stuff he talked about with, wasn't that fascinating? Think about that. Jerry just straight up said that they brought Bill. That's breaking news. I've never heard that. That the reason Bill came to Sacramento. Now, Jim Gray, I can't stand Jim Gray. His style bugs me. But ever since, who was the person he was interviewing and he just pushed too far? He pushed. Jim Gray annoys the hell out of me. But getting back to that, fascinating that the plan was to transition those two into the broadcast booth if the team went to Anaheim. Jerry took it in step, but I can't imagine Grant like that. So very, very interesting. Yes, Jerry. I'm trying to back it for the Jim. You're trying to hack his Jim Boys stuff. Well, it's not going to work. He can't even get a hold of somebody at Jim Boys right now. So, what are you going to do? That's all right. Finchy, we're not going to hold you in contempt. Happy Tuesday. Baki, what's up, my buddy? First time I'm seeing it. Doesn't watch Caitlin Clark. Baki is a fan of Carolyn Pickens. When did Baki start going third person? Baki. Third person doesn't go so well around here in the King's Court. BJ, you think I got a tramp stamp? No, bro. No. No tramp stamp. But I will tell you, a lot of dudes in San Diego have tramp stamps. Way too many. And you know what? You can see the people. You can almost tell when people got tattoos by the tattoo. Like anything tribal, anything that what was the other popular thing? Like the caricatures, anything like that. Yeah, can you believe Baki went third person? I don't know how I feel about that, Adam. Baki going third person. Interesting. Anyways, but yeah, they had some just weird stuff down there because in San Diego, you're at the beach a lot. You're out in the sun, you're wearing cutoffs, you got your shirt off, whatever it may be. I actually here, I'm not going to tell the story, but one of my first jobs involved me having my shirt off, believe it or not. It's a weird job. Anyways, let's get back to business. And no, again, not a tramp stamp. And remember, tonight, 5 o'clock, Grant's going to be here with an open forum show. Oh, Adam, you're going to allow it. Okay. He's allowing it because it's Baki. We got the open forum at 5 o'clock. You'll get a taste of Grant. You can ask him anything you want. And I'm giving you a hint here. When we do the open forums, when we do the scrums, do not be afraid to ask us questions outside of basketball. Now, if you try to take the show a way that could cause tension, that could agitate the audience, subject matter that is not appropriate for the forums that we hold, we're not answering those questions, okay? So, i.e., politics, stuff like that. If Grant wants to talk that stuff, he can talk that stuff. That's not part of the King's Court. But we can talk anything. We had a show where we didn't even really talk sports a couple of weeks ago, and that was a ton of fun. So come up with your questions. Try to stump us. Have fun with us. That's where you get the best material out of Grant a lot of times. So let's see. Pucks called himself also. Craig, what's up? I'm 61, just had a stroke, and at least I got to see the Kings make the playoffs again in my life. Craig, my man, I am so happy that you are here and able to comment and be a part of this forum and that you've recovered from your stroke. I'm so glad for you. Keep recovering, my man. Thanks for being here. I think you're going to be around to see a lot of good things from this Kings team. Remember, again, I'm going to take it the opposite way that Jerry took it. And I know ownership is taking it the opposite way of me. They're looking at Dallas and saying that could have been us. That should have been us. Coach Brown, why was that not you? But really, that needs to be directed to Monty McNair. That should not be directed to Coach Brown. Coach Brown is not the coach and the GM. So what I'm telling you, Craig, is this team is on track to give you a lot of great memories. You do your thing. You keep your rehab up. You keep your health up. Make sure you go to the doctor, everybody. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. In fact, we talked about it last week. And Craig, thank you again for the message, man. Keep getting stronger. Glad that you are better from that stroke. But we were talking about Scott Pollard last week on an open forum show. Oh, we have a call to the King's Court. Here we go. Welcome into the King's Court. This is Toronto. It's King's Court.
Rhino, what's up, bro? This is TC.
TC, what it do?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm back in effect, brother.
Love it.
So, hey, I just got a little. How you doing, man? How's your weekend?
You know what? It was really good. Sad because of Bill Walden, but very good other than that. How about yourself, TC?
OG Bill, man, I had a nice one, man. You know, wife's cousin was her 50th birthday, so we threw her something nice Saturday, and it was cool, man. It was cool, kids. Everything it was all good, man. Until, you know, I just been kind of feeling some type of way about the contract negotiation, but I didn't want to get too far in it, and I just want to keep it simple, man. Just get the deal done, man. He's worth he's worth $10 million, man. Him and Malik Monk contract has nothing to do with each other. I'm not too Rhino, not against anybody, but I'm kind of getting tired of the whole like trying to surround everything around Malik Monk. I love Malik Monk. I got the city edition and all that, the statement jersey Monk. I want Monk back. I wear it every day. I just wore it this weekend. Like, I want Monk back, bro. But, like, this isn't all around Malik Monk. Like, if Malik Monk, if he comes back, bro, he comes back. But if he goes get a bag from somewhere, he goes get a bag, bro, and we're going to have to replace him with Keon or replace him with somebody else and keep moving. But Mike Brown is more important. Like, if it came down to, like, keeping Mike Brown, if it was like, bro, we only could do one of them. We got to keep Malik Monk or we got to keep Mike Brown. I'm keeping Mike Brown. It might sound crazy, bro, but I'm keeping the head coach, man. He changed everything about this Sacramento. I'm a diehard Kings fan. I'm not a new age Kings fan like the Kings just got good and everybody, like, wants to jump on the bandwagon like the beam. No, bro, I've been here. So, like, I've seen everything, bro, and this dude turned the Kings around. We haven't had a coach in this building, bro, since Rick Alleman. We can say Mike Malone, but we don't know if Mike would have had the team like that. Like, Mike had the team going in a good direction with Cousins, but we don't know if he would have had the Denver success, bro. Mike turned this organization around, bro, and everybody has to realize that. Even Vivek, bro. Vivek, Monty, quit playing, bro. Give this dude his money, bro, and let's keep it trucking. I'm even talking about, if y'all talking about a Monty Williams contract 13, I'm giving Mike 13, bro. Keep that dude here. If we fire him and let that dude walk out this building, who are we bringing in? Period, point blank. Let alone, who are we bringing in to change his culture? That dude, not only did he turn us into a winning franchise again, he changed the culture around his team. We got the beam lighting. Everybody happy. We going. We vibing. But we're a playoff team. We missed the playoffs last year, bro, because Malik Monk got injured. Period. Not a Mike Brown situation. You can probably talk about his rotations and all that, but that's everybody has to work on that. The whole coaching staff has to work on what works with the players, who's in, who's out. That's what you work on by signing that guy and keeping him here. By firing that guy, you have a way bigger problem. Go ahead, Rhino. I know I'm babbling, bro, but I'm speaking the truth, bro.
Brother, you are rolling. I love it. You should have seen the reaction on my face. Here's the deal. You bring up a great point about Malik Monk, because what did Mike Brown do when Mike Brown can't control injuries. Malik Monk goes down, and what happens? The Kings get significantly better defensively, right, TC? That is coaching.
Fair.
That is scheme.
Yes.
That bolsters the argument. And I'm not ready to talk about Monty Williams' money, because Monty Williams, that's an outlier. That contract, throw it away in the trash. That is a team that overpaid. Right. But you know what it is? It is a good example of what bad teams have to pay to get a good coach. So if you let Mike Brown go, what are you going to be paying for? Would you rather pay $7 or $8 million for a first-time coach? You're basically rebuilding. You think Foxy is going to want to be around for that? No. So yeah, you got to keep Mike Brown in the building. I think it's just, again, posturing. The reports likely from Mike Brown's camp. I get why he's opting out. He's putting the pressure to give them the long-term extension. Give him some security. Why wouldn't you? And again, I think Monty has done a good job, but Monty has not been proactive in his time as general manager here in Sacramento. So I would say Monty has not done Coach Brown any favors. So he's kind of done this with the deck stacked against him, and you're spot on about everything else with this team, this culture. Again, 11 coaches over 16 seasons of losing basketball. So well said, TC, my brother. And I can't believe you threw down the ducats to get one of those jerseys. Holy crap.
Hey, man, bro, not even, I don't know which one. I got them in like the beginning of the year, bro, and listen, it was dope. Those jerseys are dope to me, Rhino. Period. And I needed one. I said, you know what? I need to give me a Malik Monk. I got the wife of Keegan Murray. Like, bro, listen, I love Monk, bro, but we can't, this whole offseason and everything can't be just surrounded by him. And if everybody's like, if he leaves, then everything hits the fan and we don't know what to do and we're just running around no, bro, Malik, you got to act. Even if we sign Malik today, if they're like, Malik accepted the contract, $78 million, 4 years, that's all we could give him, he took it. Bro, we still have to make moves after that. This isn't that's not the home run move. We signed Malik Monk, so now we don't want to sign anybody else. No, bro, everything has to be shaken, bro, but it starts with Mike Brown. It doesn't start with Malik Monk. That was my point. That's all I got right now.
Amen. Well said, TC. Glad you had a great long weekend. Love it when you check in on the phone line, brother.
Thank you, bro.
All right, talk to you
Peace.
soon. TC making it better as always. I love it. I do want to address this really quick. Sorry, you guys heard the NBA on NBC theme here. See, I don't even know how to work these new cell phones. Anyway, you know what? We'll just put that there. Rich, excuse me, San Diego guy. Rich lives over in the college area, and man, yes, San Diego's got to be in mourning right now. I wish I could be in San Diego with all of you right now. Dude was everything to that city. Absolutely everything. Basketball meant nothing. It was who he was. He was a champion of San Diego. He was working on social inequalities in terms of homelessness. Look, Rich knows. And you know what, my friend, enjoy the memories of Bill. I know many people in San Diego are doing that. And Rich, I really hope SDSU does something there. I think they will, because Bill had a heavy imprint on that program. Yeah, Jerry Reynolds says differently, Ed. Jerry Reynolds says differently. Hey, we got another call on the line. NBA Guru, what's up, dude?
How you doing, Rhino?
Been a minute. How are you?
Just wanted to call in, just talk about Mike Brown. That was a lot of passion by TC. I'm with everyone. I'm with all the Kings fans. Let's start paying up. I kind of want to be a little speculative. Like, let's actually dig deep. What do you think, Mike Brown? I think the reports are saying he's asking for 10 to 12. I think that's what we're hearing, right? So we got that. What are the Kings organization offering him? Are we thinking it's 6? Are we thinking it's 8? Are we thinking it's a lower yearly deal? What's causing the not to make a deal here? What do you think? Because I'm thinking maybe it's like 325 is what they're offering. Something like that. I'm just speculating here.
I think with the history of, let's push aside the Maloof time here in Sacramento, and a lot of that coach changes and paying coaches was on their watch. But with Vivek, it just seems like there is hesitancy to make long-term commitments. And you are making a significant commitment to Coach Brown, but you're not making a bigger commitment than really any other team in the league does to their coach.
Right.
So if we're going to speculate, I think that's the big thing. I think Vivek, unfortunately, the meddling, I think that has a problem. And think about where it could put Monty McNair in the middle there, right? Because Monty McNair was the guy technically that hired Mike Brown. So I think they're trying to get him at a cheaper number. And I don't think it is as much about the number as it is probably the years. That would be my guess at this point. In terms of the reports, it's probably coming. I've already said it from Mike Brown's camp. It makes all the sense in the world that they would do that. Negotiating tactic. Kings don't want to put that out. They don't want fans to stress. But just like you said, like, this is a distraction, whether you want it to be or not. Maybe it's not a distraction in the locker room, but if the fan base is distracted on something like this, like, it makes me wonder, and I'll kick this to you, Zach. We're looking at these Kings through this lens of, hey, we just went through 16 years of suffering and terrible basketball. And yeah, last year we really hoped they would have made the playoffs. They didn't. That was disappointing. But they've had 2 winning seasons in a row. We're looking at it with those glasses, and I think you've got ownership looking at it like, oh, we should have already won a championship by now.
Yeah, that's just not realistic. I don't know what they're expecting because I know they were displeased for this season, but we would have made playoffs, in my opinion, if the Kings, if Malik Monk doesn't get injured in that Dallas game. And is that the difference between having the extension by now, or is it not?
I think we would be doing this dance regardless. I really do. I think there would be a dance about the pay and the length.
I think you're right. I think you're right, because I do think it is the length, like you're saying. I do think maybe the Kings want 2 to 3 year extension, while he wants maybe a 5-year extension, like a Monty Williams type contract. Like, what did you get? 6 for 75, 78, something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what he's asking for. If he wants that 6-year contract, then I can kind of understand what the Kings are doing. But if it's a 3 or 4 years and he wants 10 to 12 million, just give it to him. But we don't know what the actual numbers and lengths and all that stuff is. But that's they just got to make sure to have this under wraps, because
No doubt.
we don't need it. We don't need this around draft time. It should be done
No.
by draft for sure.
Oh, to me, it has to be, because if you're going to make any big moves, like think about the Rudy Gay thing. I keep going back to it. Rudy's like, oh, they wasted my prime. I thought I was going to be playing for Michael Malone. Then 3 days later, they fire him. If you're going to go out and make a swing like Kyle Kuzma or a swing like Brandon Ingram, they're going to want to know there's some security on the back end with this franchise. And,
Right.
As an owner, as a GM, it's like, oh, well, no, we're going to get it done. Don't worry. And then you'll have the agent for those players saying, well, they've been through 11 coaches in 16 years of losing. Like, you think they're really going to get it done? Because it doesn't matter that all of that happened or didn't happen on Vivek's watch, because of it's the perception the Kings fans get. It doesn't matter. It sends you right into that anxious spot, like, oh crap, we're going to go back to meaningless basketball. Now, I do want to bring this up while you're here. Jason makes a good point. And the one thing that we're not considering was the COVID year. The Kings lost a lot of money that year, a lot of money. So I wonder how much that plays into their, I don't want to say inability, but their, whether they open the wallet or not. I do think that they do need to open the wallet. If there was ever a time to go into the tax or flirt with that, you're starting to get to that point, because again, we're not even talking about the De'Aaron Fox thing. Like, this thing with De'Aaron Fox is coming sooner rather than later with contract talks with him.
Well, it's just like a domino effect.
Yes.
If you're not going to sign Mike Brown, then not a lot of free agents are going to come, or people are going to be speculative of coming to Sacramento, and that's going to cost you more wins in the future, which makes less money in the future if you're just a really bad team again. So I think the Kings are a little bit smarter than that. So I hope that they're trying to figure it out. But they do. I know Vivek's been paying for coaches, like 2 or 3 coaches at the same time for the last 5-10 years. But he's got to just it's just tough, because he has someone good right in front of him, right under his nose, and they're not cashing out for him. So I hope, like we said, just get it done before the draft at the latest. But it should, maybe this is just stage 1 of the talks. Maybe they just started talking about this. I don't know. But hopefully they get back to it in a week, or I don't know what's the holdup. If they're like, I know Adrian said that they're tabling discussions for now. When are we going back to the table?
Well, that's the thing. Tabling discussions, that's so ambiguous. They could be tabled for the night. They could be tabled for a week, like you said. But the bottom line is Vivek's it's bad business. He's a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you pay for what you get. Like, if you don't want to pay a coach, you're not going to have a good team, period, end of story. So I'm with you. They've got to get it done. I wonder, there's still this veil, Zach, of last season and questions about why was the chemistry off? What changed? Why did it look like they weren't having fun? So I don't, there's no indication that had anything to do with Mike Brown,
Right.
but I fear the longer this goes, the more it opens up for interpretation. Like, oh, well, maybe so-and-so isn't a fan of the culture, a fan of the style. And so that's why the longer this goes too, the worse it is. It's like, anyways, go ahead.
I agree. No, I agree, because but then, so if the players have been disgruntled with Mike, and that's kind of been behind the scenes, and no one's been really talking about it. And like you said, if this keeps going, taking longer, then we're gonna have open up these questions. Is Fox happy with Mike? Is Sabonis happy with Mike? But for me, Fox has been around for since 2017, and we've had a decent amount of we've had Dave, we've had Luke, we've had now we have Mike. So I remember during the Dave Yeager times, Foxton a lot, to the team, he was a little bit harsh on them. Was what was coming out of camps, and Dave was a little bit too rough, too hard, making them work extra hard, and they didn't like that. So then they got Luke, and Luke was, he's supposed to be the easygoing coach guy, and they didn't like him. But also his record is bad, so that makes sense. But now we got Mike Brown, and if the players are going to have problems with him, then is it now we got to look at it like, are the players just being a little bit too spoiled, or what's going on there now?
Well,
So,
the power swung back to the players. Just look at it's the LeBron effect. LeBron is the one that started that movement. I mean, we've talked about it. LeBron, Jerry agrees too, should be the coach and GM of the Lakers. So, I mean, he already is. That's literally what he is. It's just other people are the fall people.
And Durant's like that too. He's been getting coaches fired everywhere he goes now.
Yep, to a degree. And Craig, to your point, it's happening. Craig Jordy, our lead assistant, who was a very heavily defensive-minded coach, just got hired by Brooklyn. Look at Lindsey Harding, G League Coach of the Year for your Stockton Kings. It's happening. It doesn't happen quick, but the young movement and the women movement is it is happening, and you will see a female head coach sooner rather than later in the NBA, Craig. So
Joe for Boston's pretty young too.
Yeah, Joe Mazzulla is young. Matthew hopping in. Okay, not re-signing coach. So if their organization just not seeing Brown running the team in 2 years, then just let him walk now, get Monty out now, then find a new young coach. It's a complete rebuild if you pull Mike Brown out of this. And there's no way that you can get rid of Mike Brown. You bring up a great point, Matthew, without also getting rid of Monty McNair. In fact, if you had to do evaluations and put them side by side and put them on trial, I think Mike Brown would probably be acquitted before Monty McNair, because of, even though Monty has made very prudent moves, he has been reactive rather than proactive, Zach.
Yeah, we don't want to start over. We're in the right direction. We're very close. We were an injury. If Malik was healthy, we could have been the 8th seed, and we might have gotten a couple games from OKC. And you never know. We could have. I mean, it would have been a low chance, but there was still an opportunity to win that first round series. So I don't want to get too ahead of our. I think I saw.
It's going to happen. That's the thing. You guys got to realize it's the off season where we don't have a ton to talk about with this team. So when this stuff comes out, we're going to break it down. This deal will get done. I'm not trying to ring any alarms. I would be shocked. Zach, how about you?
Yeah, I'd be completely shocked if the Kings didn't land Brown for at least 3 years at the minimum. Yeah. I'd be very shocked. This is Vivek has a stability right under his nose. You got to just sign it. The players have seemed to like him for the last 2 seasons. We've won. I mean, this guy's a 61% winning percent coach, and we've had winning seasons the last 2 years, 46, 48 wins. So what else? What else can we want right now?
Well, I mean, again, the Dallas playoff run, that was the worst thing. Anybody but Dallas this year for the Kings in terms of their ownership's mindset. I know that was and notice how some of this stuff came out like, oh, we're not happy now, because you saw a team that the Kings were better than, that got better by making little moves. So it goes both ways. Now, Matthew, here's the deal, dude. Sabonis is going nowhere. I talked about this last week. Sabonis, there's not a team in the NBA that's going to take on Domantis's contract that the Kings extended him to. And in fact, I would go so far, and I wonder, and this is pure speculation on my part, I wonder if the Sabonis extension last year rubbed some people in that locker room the wrong way, because they had money to play with last offseason, and they decided to extend Sabonis rather than make a little move here, a little move there, Zach. And how different could this team have been had they gotten a free agent or two?
Yeah. Like you said, the organization has been waiting for Monty to make a move in the last year or two during the free trade deadline, and as well in the summer. And because Monty didn't make a good move. Just what Robin Lopez for the second time to get waived, and then he sees that Dallas just traded a first rounder to get PJ and Gafford, which get them elevated to a finals and maybe an NBA championship. The team, the organization is not happy about that, and I get it a little bit, but it doesn't mean to go haywire about it. He has some pressure on him, and I think Monty knows that, and that's all you can do from the owner's standpoint to say, hey, like let's try to make some moves this summer. And I think Monty knew that from already, so we'll see.
Yeah, and it just the timing of it's bad. The value that you would have gotten for Herder, Barnes probably would have been much better than it is this offseason. So you're going to need a trade partner that's probably looking to rebuild. Davion is actually a desirable piece. So you got some value there. Craig, look, Mike Brown's not asking for a bag. We got to stop this. He's not asking to be the highest paid coach in the NBA. He's simply asking for a fair extension, which is fair. Craig, I mean, dude, it's not highly questionable. You can't say he's got fired 2 times in different stops. If we want to play that game, we could go through damn near every coach in the league. You've had coaches that are fired the year after winning a championship. It's crazy. Owners are so impatient. Look at the Denver model. They gave Michael Malone some line. They let him do his thing to the point where last year people were saying he would get fired if he didn't win a championship. Mike Brown has presided over 2 years of winning basketball here in Sacramento. Now, it's not winning at the level that everybody wants, but 46 and 48 wins compared to not even being 500 for how many years? It's a no-brainer to me. Do you have any problem with that, Zach?
Yeah, I do not want to get Mike Brown fired. That's just not should not happen. We finally have stability, like we've been saying, 2 years of playoff or 1 year of playoffs and 46 win season with a very tough West. He got fired for a bunch of different reasons. He had some high character people. Mike Brown's won 4 chips, so I mean we can look at his resume as an assistant 4 championships. So let's we don't want to go too crazy with the stability that we got right now.
No doubt. And Jason, that's a fair point. But again, Mike Brown can't play the games. He can only get the guys ready for the games. That's his responsibility. His responsibility is to make adjustments, to manage the personalities in the locker room. Why that happened, we don't know. And that's what, if we knew the answer to why Kings lost to bad teams, why leads were blown, why De'Aaron didn't talk to the media for 16 days, then this is a completely different conversation, but we don't know those answers. So yeah, a lot of that at the end of the day is going to fall on the coach. I have been critical, Zach, of Mike Brown for not, he said at the end of the season that the guys called most of the plays. They were basically freelancing. And the first year Mike Brown was here, he called most of the plays. And you could tell a difference when the Kings team was running plays like they did out of the gate against Golden State in the play-in. And you look at the playoffs right now, Zach, that's what it's all about. It's execution. So yes, Jason, that is a fair point about Mike Brown having a role on that. But the Kings, Zach, to me, there's got to be more structure in that offense, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I do agree. Like you said, it would be nice to be a little bit formulaic, like they were the previous season, not too freelancing, flow with the ball kind of stuff. So I do think that could be improved by Mike. He gave a little too much trust, I think, in the team to try to execute, but just calling a little bit more plays. For me personally, I didn't have too much of a problem with a lot of the stuff Mike was doing. I think the rotations, I know people were displeased a little bit at times for it, but I think they were fine for the overall season. Keon Ellis, we found a great piece in him. He played him. Was hesitant to in the beginning, but started seeing his development, and he's been playing great. So it's not his fault that Kevin Herter had his worst season. Keegan wasn't consistent for making threes. De'Aaron kind of lowered his level a little bit. I don't see that in Mike Brown's fault. So I think we should re-sign him.
Yeah, he will. At the end of the day, He'll be re-signed. There's
Yeah.
nothing to sweat over here. Again, it's negotiations. It's a dance. If you've ever bought a car, if you ever worked in an industry where you negotiate contracts, this is how it goes. So, hey, Zach, appreciate you hopping on today, buddy.
Appreciate it, Rhino.
All
Hope
right,
to
we'll
be
talk
on
soon.
a little bit more next
Yeah,
time.
for sure. Let's catch up soon. It's been a minute.
Thanks. Take care.
You got it. All right, from Zach, we go to Jason. What's up, man? How you
Hey,
doing
brother.
today?
How you doing, my
I'm
fellow
great,
Aztec?
my fellow Aztec.
That's right. Fight on, fight on. Yes,
Yes,
men.
indeed.
Sons of Montezuma. We will win again. Hey, I played at Cordova under a coach named Max Miller,
Mm-hmm.
who
I
I
remember
believe was
Coach
in.
Miller.
Yes, and we would win games just because of his speeches. He would bring up all the alumni. He would tell us. He'd almost guilt trip us in. So I played under really good coaches. I love Max. And we would be in games and win games. We had no business. We were out talented. Um, uh, I wouldn't say we were outplay called, but we just had this desire. And what I saw in the Kings a lot of times, whether it was with De'Aaron, et cetera, is to me, there's just no leader there. There's just not somebody. I mean, Keon Ellis, believe it or not, he came in as a role player. He has that energy. Same thing with Malik Monk. And I think you hit on the head is last year. If you remember watching Malone and Stockton? Do you remember
Yes.
them when they were unstoppable? That pick and roll is unstoppable. That's what we have with Sabonis. They can't stop it. His passes, it is unstoppable. And why like with Golden State, you pointed out when they came out and they ran what 7 or 8 plays out of the first 10 for Keegan
Keegan.
Murray, and he just went off. And you saw what that did for his confidence. And then they went away from it. That blows my mind. To me, that's coaching. Honestly, it just is.
Yeah.
And Mike Brown is great for the program. Love the dude. I love Monty. They are class acts. Vivek, if you're in business, you have to understand people are chintzy. I don't have to say it, but they are, and that's just part of who he is. And he's got to open up the wallet. And so there's all these a plethora of different things going on. But at some point, if De'Aaron's a leader, he has to step up. Now, if Monk resigns, I would not be surprised if Monk now becomes the leader, if he's a starter. If they say, Monk, you're going to be the leader. And that way, Darren, he's got another kid coming, and you're married and you got a wife, and today's day and age, there's a lot of pressure. And my guess is the rumor is that he was getting a lot of pressure. He's having to take care of the kids and all this other stuff, losing sleep. I wouldn't doubt if that's actually what happened. And so that if they're boys and he just says, hey, listen, I've got to do this family thing, take the load, Monk. And if Monk does stay, that's my guess, that's going to be a conversation between Darian and him. And if you have Keon coming in second stream and he takes over the lead, if I were Mike Brown, I would look and see the personalities. I would get a psychologist in and say, look and see, this is what these people do. These are the players, these are the tendencies, and this is what you have. And I would try to go out and get somebody, a third person. But if they don't get somebody, my guess is that we're just not going to be that great. I mean, there's so many other teams that are coming up. I mean, there are teams that are getting old, but you can see, look at Dallas. Look at them.
Yep.
That you're seeing some of the best basketball you will ever see. Look what Dallas is doing with the lobs
It's
is
impressive.
incredible.
The
And
one that Luca made, falling
oh,
back, unreal.
dude, but that's what the Kings have with Sabonis. They have something that's unstoppable. And you saw what last year what was happening, and to me it's like sometimes you kind of believe your own hype. And like with Mike, he's like, oh, hey, the guys are going to do their own thing, shoot shoot shoot. Like, no, Mike, you're a coach. These are grown men and they're great athletes, but you gotta start pushing them. And you got to be like, hey, that was a terrible idea, that was, and you got to reel them in. And if they're firing all 4 cylinders like Luca and Kyrie right now, then you let them go. But all the players are on the same page, and I think they're going to actually win. To be honest with you, they're playing out of their
Yeah.
minds right now. And so looking for the West, unless they get that other player and they have the people know their roles. Like I was doing sales one time and I had this manager that was hating on me. And he's like, he came in the office and he wasn't my sales manager. He's like, know your role. And I was really like, I dissed him, but it's really true. You got to know your role. And
Amen.
once you're in that role, then you can just crush it. And that's what I see going on. Like I said, like with Dallas, is every player on that team knows exactly what they're supposed to do, and they're not doing anything else other than what they're doing. And that's why I think they're going to win.
You know what? At the end of your comments, you hit the nail on the head. So that's what I was going to say. There's not defined roles on this Kings team, and there
No.
needs to be. But with the fan base and with the media, it's almost like we've selected what the roles are of each player, because when something goes wrong, I'm guilty of this. The fan base does it all the time. It's De'Aaron Fox. It's his team, right? But
Mhm.
if you look at it, is it really De'Aaron Fox's team?
No.
Domantas Sabonis makes more money than him, and he's
Right.
going to have he has a longer contract commitment than De'Aaron. So how is that? How does that dynamic work if you're
Mhm.
Foxy? All the weight of the world's on you, yet
Mhm.
it's not your team. Rolls off the bench. It's so important. If I'm Coach Brown, if I am any coach in the NBA, the first thing I'm doing is throwing strength finders their way. Read it, find out your strengths, and we're getting
Mhm.
rolls going right now, because
Mhm.
that is what the Kings lacked last year. And it was clear as day, because when you see Chris Duarte, who's hadn't played, been out of the rotation, comes in a game as kind of like a last chance thing, Mike Brown hitting the exits or the fire alarm sign, and he shoots 3 triples in like 4 possessions. It's like, dude, know your role. You're on the
Mhm.
floor to hustle. You're on the floor to
Mhm.
get 50-50s. If you get a
Mhm.
spray out 3, great. But dude, we don't need threes from you. Get the ball to somebody else. So it's a great call,
Right.
Jason. Appreciate it, dude. I got to run, though. We got to get out here in a
Got it.
few minutes. Always great talking to you.
All right, brother.
All right,
Cheers.
Aztec brother. That is Jason. Great job today, y'all. Great job. Jerry Reynolds Tuesday never fails. Oh, by the way, I want to keep my word. Maybe he was hurt over the weekend, Corn Dog. I was not able to make his game, but apparently there was some media there. There was a leak in the roof, I heard, so they had to play the game outdoors, and they actually caught a good one of Corn Dog. Let it rain! Raindrops! Corn Dog, look at the form, dude. I don't know about the head though, Corn Dog. You might want to keep the head a little bit more centered. I guess the elbow's okay. It looks like you're gonna have a decent follow through, but you would really like to be a little bit more cocked back like that. But yeah, Corn Dog balling out this last weekend. He must have gotten hurt, or maybe he's getting treatment right now. But yeah, there is exclusive images of Corn Dog at his company game. All right, you guys know I'm just kidding. We love Corn Dog. Great show, everybody. Make sure you come back 5:00. Grant will be here, open forum, and then Grant and I will be back tonight, 8 p.m. together. Be doing a post-game scrum, which also will be an open forum. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. The King's Court runs on multiple. The live show runs on multiple YouTube channels. You can find it on X, but also it is always streaming live on If You Don't Like That. Over 7,000 already subscribed. Thank you so much for doing so. If you haven't, go check it out. That is where all of our video content lives. You can see all of the pregame, halftime, postgame shows from the past 2 seasons. And then obviously, Court is in session. All of the audio from the King's Court gets uploaded to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So go check that out as well. That will take you to my Twitter page, Ryan in Sacktown. I appreciate all of you. It's been a weird show with Bill's passing. You know, Rich said it. San Diego's in mourning, and San Diego is my second home. And, you know, I can't wait to talk to Grant a little bit later tonight about Bill. But I'm glad that all of you had a very good Memorial Day weekend. And fun day back. We'll push the ride dose over to tomorrow because we had the one and only Jerry Reynolds, as we do every Tuesday here on the King's Court. All right, Tedora, hit it.
Holy moly, Jimbabwe.
Love it. Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Court is dismissed until the morning shoot around tomorrow on Apple and Spotify. Thank you so much. We'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock. And don't forget, Grant, right back here, 5 o'clock, just about an hour. See you then.